Hi, everybody. We're on Skills Not Pills, and this is your host, Carrie Hummingbird. And I'm really excited today to invite Dagny Grant and Beth Donnelly. We're going to have a conversation about helping kids develop self-image and empathy to prevent pills. So Beth and Dagny are co-hosts of Echoes of the Soul radio show, are co-authors of the international best-selling book Journey of Joy series, owned and produced by Matrix Productions. And Matrix Productions is their multimedia company that has a global impact on those ready to expand their awareness to the connection between mind, body, and spirit. And their free gift for all of us today is the first in the Journey of Joy children's book series that's titled I Am Enough. So welcome, you guys, to the show. Welcome, you wonderful women.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're really excited to chat with you today, and anybody listening in.
Well, I'm really excited to have you guys here. So, I'm curious if you guys want to tell us about your motivation for writing these books and why now.
Well, I'll go ahead and start on that one. We, our tribe of transformational thought leaders have all pretty much learned a subset of different skills, right, to get us through our day with as much joy as possible. And things like responsibility for how we feel and shifting our emotional states to align with our heart and just stuff like that, right? And so our thought was that even though life is this constant practice field for all of that, we never know when different things are going to come or, unfold in front of us. Our thought was that if only kids knew that at a younger age. Many people that we deal with learn these things in their 20s, 30s, 40s, some in their 70s. And what if little kids could learn this stuff and have those neural networks formed with this wonderful information so that they, their lives can be easier. And, as we know, what we learn at 7 also, sets those neural pathways that fire those synapses throughout our whole life, right? Our teens, our 20s, and beyond. And so, it's teaching folks young how to deal with those things. Especially kids have an interesting experience these days.
That's so true, Dagny. And we also kind of wanted to give kids age-appropriate tools to find those the power inside of them, so they have those neural networks going, just like Dagny was talking about. So if they do find their, what we call their happy place inside, they have that sense of knowing about unlimited possibilities, and we think that's really important for kids today.
Yeah, that is so important with all the news that we've got going on about kids taking pretty radical actions at high schools and such. I think it's clear that there is a disconnect. And I think, with all the kids playing games and video games, I know I have teenagers and, they spend a lot of time playing those video games. That's their social time. So, I mean, they've got friends on the other side of the screen all around the world that they interact with, but there's no face-to-face. So, how did now you have a main character, Joy, and so tell us a little bit about this main character. What's about this character that's resonant for the youth today?
Joy is a little 7-year-old girl. It doesn't actually give her age in the book, but you can kind of tell she's around that age. It's between 5 and 12 is a really good age group for this, which I know is wide, but it really does fit. Once you see the books, you can see how that could be possible, that the range would be that wide. Joy is, Journey of Joy is kind of a double entendre, right? I mean, we Joy is her name, and she's on a journey. She and her friends through the series of the books journey to different places. They go to the park, they go to the lake, they're on this journey where they meet each other throughout the storyline. And life is a journey, right? It's either a journey where we feel like we're in victimhood or we feel like we're in joy. And while that might balance out in variety, it's we just thought it was really a fun title for for the process that the characters go through.
It is a really cute name, and I know that was sort of in Dagny's head all along to have a character named Joy, and it fits so well because we were dealing with the emotions that she and all the characters feel throughout the book series, and that's to lead a more joyful life. So joy and joyful.
Carrie, your sound has gone out.
Here I am again. I think I printed off.
We're both looking.
I have a clicker, and I think I clicked instead of clacked.
Okay.
So it's interesting, you know, we've got a lot of things, a lot of what I notice on Skills Not Pills, you know, is certainly that a lot of people are distracting and tuning out, right? Which to me, you know, if you're sort of resorting to pills or you're living a life of distraction, that to me indicates you're not really so present in the moment because maybe the moment is uncomfortable. You know, maybe there's something uncomfortable in the present moment in your life that you want to avoid feeling. And what we all want joy, but we don't get to joy from not feeling. Like if
Right.
I think it's Brené Brown or I'm not sure, maybe it was Marianne Williamson. I can't remember which one said, if you can't selectively feel, it has to be everything. You have to feel everything.
Well, that's so true. And that's one of the things that we feel that empowers kids is that they are in control of what they think and feel. That's where they have the control, and that's where the power is. So you're right. Totally.
And with a lot of kids growing up, you know, empathetic, meaning they have a lot of empathy ability. Maybe they're more sensitive would be, you know, another word that people label it. They'd say, you're so sensitive, or, you know, you're so fragile, you know, and you can't cope with these harsher things. But I think in reality, if we look at it on a planetary scale, I think what we're really doing is ascending. And so things are getting refined, you know, and we're able to experience a refinement in emotion that these heavy, clunky, really difficult things are even more difficult to process, like the anger and the hate and the grief. And if we don't have channels for processing all of that in our adults, if our adults don't process that, if we take pills instead of feeling sadness, if we take pills instead of feeling anger, then how are we teaching our kids? So what are some ways that you guys are addressing these issues in your books? Like, how do you help kids be okay with emotions or be okay with their empathy, or how do you help kids develop skills?
Well, we help them by letting them know through our characters that they always have a choice. They may not be able to control what's happening around them, all the things that you were talking about going on in the world, but they can always control, as I was saying earlier, how they think and how they feel. And so rather than self-medicate or take pills like you were talking about, they can, as portrayed in the book, they can be of service, they can show kindness, they can meditate, they can choose to shift their focus on something that serves them. And that's a really big thing that we talk about, telling a different story.
Oh.
It does serve them, and they learn how to do that. And so the result of this is finding out that happiness is really an inside job, something that they can carry inside them.
I love that. And I love the aspect of storytelling, realizing that they're telling their own story. So that is a really good skill to learn, isn't it?
It's a very good one, even for adults.
Well, and it's one of the things that is a thread throughout the storyline, is that these kids are going through things kids go through, and then they talk about it together, and they're not they talk about how taking responsibility for how they're feeling and how they're reacting is the power, is their superpower, right? That they're not anyone's feelings puppets. They're not, no one else decides how they're going to feel about things, and that they can be mindful of how they're feeling about things, and then choose how they're going to respond in kind. And that's, wow, what a lesson for even most adults to learn, right? Much less kids.
Even most adults. You know, I remember meeting my first mentor, Heather Ashamara, really taught me how to be present with my feelings, like what was happening inside of me. And she just did that by holding presence, by just
Right.
being there, letting me express whatever it was I needed to express, and not trying to deny it, not trying to fix it, not trying to change it, not trying to, tell me I'm wrong,
Silent.
not like, no, you're just, okay, you're having that experience. Wow.
Now
You are having that experience.
Yeah.
there's a part of the book where the children are feeling what they're feeling, and that it's great to do that, to feel it. And then we talk about letting it go as like a cloud passing on the sky, and then you just let it go. So I think that's so true, though. You can't, stuff your feelings down. You have to experience them and then let them go.
Well, that's an interesting topic because I'll just give you a little example. So I've got my husband's, I have a blended family. And so I've got teenagers, he's got two little ones. So 8 and 10 are his. And so his son is 8, he's the youngest one. And boy, he is quite the energetic fellow, and also very opinionated and clever, and really good at playing the gaps.
I bet fabulous, yes.
He's real clever at negotiation. So if he doesn't, like last night he had to wash the dishes and he didn't want to do that. And so he got kind of frustrated and he had some anger come up. And I thought it was interesting because I watched my husband. He was kind of like, now, are you going to need a timeout with that anger? Or are you going to be able to get the task done? And I've seen this. I've seen him kind of do where he can dig his heels in. And this, like washing the dishes thing that could take 3 minutes, could take 3 hours, right? I mean, I've literally seen that.
Right.
And I was thinking, wow, it got me thinking afterwards. How could we handle anger in this moment? Like, acknowledge the anger's there. Like, don't stuff it,
Right.
and don't make it wrong to have the anger, but just be like, wow, you're really angry right now. How would you like to express that in this moment? And then get back to washing the dishes.
Well, I think part of that is what our characters are taught is the empathy part of anything that's required of them or asked for them to do that maybe they don't like, or somebody even bullying them, is to empathize with everyone around them. And we teach them how to do that in the book through our characters. And I think it's like, what if your son knew that he was, helping you guys out, and that he doesn't really know how much work you guys have done during the day, and to realize that, and that maybe he can just help out in that case and still feel the anger because he wants to go play the game or whatever, and he doesn't need to feel bad about it, like you said. But I think empathy is a big part of that, for kids to feel good where they're at.
Well, and sometimes we don't always get what we want in life, right?
That's so true.
No, and we don't need to medicate ourselves through that either. So that
Right.
so we don't have to feel that. It's a number of our characters' stories as they're trying out for plays, or they're doing different things that they don't know if they're going to get what they want, and so how are they dealing with that? And it's so much fun to think through these different scenarios that kids go through, and how, when one of the things that I think is unfortunate is a mentor, a parent that will then go, oh, well, you're unhappy, let me do that for you, because their boss isn't going to do that. That isn't going to make them a better partner or spouse if they always get their way,
Well,
right? So
I know this one pretty well, actually. I can speak to that a little bit, is I think we have a lot of families that are divorced.
yes.
And as a single parent, I know as a single mother with my older son, he was with me all the time, and my other son went back and forth. And I was like, I wanted a friend, and I knew that was a mistake. Like, I knew, my mom was like, you can't be his friend. And I knew I couldn't be his friend, right? And so I did my best to not be his friend. But it's something really hard when you're a single parent, you're trying to provide all the income for the household, you're dating and it's awkward, and you feel, maybe you don't have any friends anymore, because sometimes when you leave a divorce, like, you have no friends. Because you made that transition, and people were friends with you because you were a couple, not because of who you are.
Absolutely.
So this is a difficult spot for parents, and then to have no support system. Well, now you're kind of like with this adult child, this sort of midway child, like, well, you're old enough to have conversations, and I shouldn't have those conversations with you, you know, and I can't overlook your bad behavior, right?
Right.
There's so many parts where I think I turned a blind eye, and I'm pretty good about this stuff, and even I turned a blind eye.
Well, that's why I
You
said,
know, like,
that's why I said at the top that life gives us it's a constant practice field.
it is.
Yeah.
So how can we, so this is really great, because I think that what I'm trying to say is I think that kids probably have a lot more pressure on them today
They
than
do.
maybe they would have had in other generations because of this dynamics.
It's like life on steroids because everything is in sound bites. You know, when we were kids, it was, you actually went outside and played. Imagine that.
I know.
It's and now everything is electronic and digital and really fast
Well,
yeah.
and people are afraid to have their kids go outside and play.
Well, right. Well, there's that too. But there's always the computer, and even if you're outside playing, you're on your cell phone, right?
Yeah, they carry those little cell phones with them.
Right. So it's it's about how to choose something other than, as Beth said in the earlier, self-medicating, and that self-medicating can be with pills or with McDonald's Happy Meals or just all kinds of, right? The food, sex, sugar, alcohol, all kinds of things.
Well, there's the guilty parenting.
And guilty parenting. Guilty parenting. I think you actually are so right on with that one, Carrie, because like you said, 50-60% of marriages end in divorce, and all the guilty parenting. Oh my
The
God.
guilty parenting, like, and the one-upping, like, I'm going to buy the kid an Xbox. Well, I'm going to buy the PS2 or 3, or I'm going to get the kid this. And there's all this back and forth, and you don't want to be the parent that's less cool than the other parent, right? Because, I mean, anyway, maybe that was my deranged situation, but
No, it's not.
I mean, I think it's hard on parents, and I think it's hard on kids. And the thing is you do have to enforce, you know, you do need to enforce, like, reading time, like, sit down, quiet time with your book. Or even now, this is a great opportunity, isn't it, for parents to read to the children at night and prepare the child for bed, right? Isn't that a good opportunity?
It is, very much so. Yeah, and especially if the book has some learning ability attached to it about ways to handle life. And that's why we, wrote these books. We were hoping that the parent would sit down with them and discuss what's going on. And plus, they're just fun books. And I think any kind of shared time with the parent and reading is great for the kid, no matter what, So.
Well, I know that you talk about that your book titles are all about I am. And of course, I understand the power of I am. But maybe for people in the audience that might not understand why this is so important, would you guys like to share why you've incorporated I am?
Oh, yes, they're all over our books. Every title has I am in it. And because, whatever you say after the words I am is really your self-identity. And it may or may not serve you. That's the key. So maybe I'll just give you an example. In our first book, Fred is our baby dragon, and he's trying to fly, and he falls, and he says, I'm just not good enough, and referring to his flying ability, of course. And Joy, our main character, tries to help him by telling him he's powerful inside, and he just needs to believe in himself. And this is where the empathy comes in, because Joy has just experienced not making the soccer team, so she can empathize with him, and she wants to help him. So she tells him that story. She shares her story with him and tells him that she always feels like she can try again. And so she instills that courage into Fred, and Fred decides he's going to try and fly, and he does for a bit. And he's working on it, but he's feeling good about himself. So they also, listen to Glitter, who's the voice of wisdom, so to speak, in this series of books.
She's our beautiful butterfly.
Yes.
Oh, I love butterflies.
Yeah. Oh, you have you. Isn't that pretty? Yeah. So she really does help them to change their I ams by telling the new story that we were talking about. One that's powerful and positive, and that can affect them in a really wonderful way. So hopefully this will help the reader, the child and that relationship with their life.
Well, even in just the story that you just relayed, I really like the part about that you're making it clear that sometimes you've got to try and try again and try again. And there's nothing wrong with that process. It's actually natural and normal and to be expected. And that to me is the skills. You know, that's the skills idea rather than like it's going to be just, I'm going to get what I want. It's going to be given to me, the guilty parenting, you know. Here's my pill.
Joy in the journey as you try again and try it a little bit differently next time and meet some new people the next time. Be joyful in the journey of that, right?
Yeah.
That's how they grow.
You know, one of the other things about the I ams is that oftentimes, as we know, our I ams are not our own. They were given to us by someone else. Someone else decided we're the shy one, or we're not smart enough.
The family stories.
Right. The family stories. The kid at school that said we were ugly. The teacher that said, well, you're just not good at math, right? Those become our self-identity, and they're not even true. So learning how to actually, you know, align with self and heart and the heart space and really hear who we really are from the inside out, like Beth was saying, that inside job.
You know what I would love? I would love if you make one of these books for ADHD kids and then just be like, I am an active learner.
That's a great idea.
I learn through moving my body because they're kinesthetic learners.
Well, that's fun because...
And then we can teach the teachers while we're teaching the kids.
It's fun because in every single book they play an I am game. And they twirl around with their intended personal I ams. So that really fits really well, actually.
Yeah. They're actually kinesthetic learners. My husband's actually, because our youngest is a kinesthetic learner. That's how he is.
Right.
He's African American. A lot of African American kids are kinesthetic, boys are kinesthetic learners, actually. And so the school system does not accommodate that, right?
No, they don't.
And so our school system has noticed a trend where they're having problems with African American boys. Well, why is that? They're kinesthetic learners, and our school's not set up for kinesthetic learners. So there's nothing wrong with these kids.
No.
They're not getting the education that they need. So I think if we can, you know, I love what you guys are doing. And I think the more that we can get that message out in these subtle ways, because sometimes Carrie Hummingbird's way of like just, bam, here's the message, doesn't always work. Sometimes we need people that are more sleuthy with like how they weave the message in, right?
Mm-hmm. But that's a wonderful point.
Well, that's one of the things that Beth and I are working on right now, actually, is for parents and schools. It's a teaching program called,
good.
What are we calling that again, Beth?
Intuition for kids.
Yes, intuition for kids, yeah.
Yeah, and body is a huge part of intuition.
Right.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Listening
it's all
to your body.
about, you know, understand how come inside and then move forward, right? Always start. Sometimes we just don't even take a breath, you know? We're so into just that immediate response that we don't even know how we feel before we respond. We're just so...
Well, the other thing is that even as adults, like we're still trying to figure out how our brains work, right? And we have these sort of ancient brains, you know, and we're moving ourselves into this ascended way of being on the planet with these old hardware. And we're trying to upgrade the hardware, right?
Right.
And it's hardwired for negative thinking. And so you've got, if you're aware of that and you can shift, you know, from the part of the brain that does that scarcity thinking into the frontal cortex. I've had all these neuroscience experts on the show, which I love neuroscience.
Yeah, so do we.
I love it. And, you know, and I was just I'm taking a course right now. James Garrett was one of the neuroscientists. And the piece he was talking about is that you need to be aware that your brain has on and off, you know, like when it's on and focusing, it's draining the battery. And when it's like relaxing and playing, it's filling up the battery. So when you go for a walk or you have playtime, it fills up the battery, which then you can then focus again. But I think our schools don't understand that. They don't understand that you've got to fill it up again in order to, and then you can do this I am thing like you're talking about, like even just creating awareness. Like this morning, this is the last day of school. So both of my little ones today they knocked on my door like a half an hour early. They're like, Miss Carrie, we're ready to go. We're excited. And like, that hasn't happened. Okay. So they have a party at school today. So when I came out, I said to my daughter, I said, Yamina, have you noticed that today you're excited to go to school? She's like, yeah, I am. I said, okay, why are you excited? She says, because there's a party today. And I'm so excited to go to school because there's a party. And I looked at her and I said, I wonder if you could tell yourself every day that there was a party at school. And you could be this excited to go to school every single day. And like, let's take that one step further. What if school was exciting and fun for these kids and not punishing and boring?
Right. What did you do? Right. Well, yeah, it's the education system, I think, is tough because you've got 30 kids that all learn differently. So
they all learn differently.
That's, that's a real challenge.
But there's these tests and everything is built on the tests. And it's like the whole goal is passing the test and not like making sure these kids are enjoying learning. Like the first goal should be making sure these kids enjoy learning. That's the number one goal. Because if you get a kid enjoying learning, you've just made an adult that enjoys learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the most important goal. It doesn't matter if they remember like all this complicated math or whatever the heck the tests are on. I don't remember all that stuff. I already forgot it. I'm not using that in my life. Right. Love of learning, you will use that your whole life.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, that's so true, Carrie. I don't remember who it was, but I think I must have seen it on Facebook. But some teacher decided to take the boys outside because they weren't learning just sitting still in the room and just walk around and do the reading. And they really excelled because they were able to move around. And I think you were talking about that a little bit earlier, that some just learn kinesthetically, some learn in different ways. And most of the time the schools can't adapt to all those things, but maybe this is time for them to rethink.
Yeah, they can rotate their curriculum. You know what I'm saying? Like you can just rotate the day and right away it's going to be more interesting.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Because you're doing something different. You don't know what's going to happen next.
Unexpected, yeah, because there's so much that's unexpected. You can kind of be anxiously anticipatory.
Excitedly.
Right? Yeah, excited. Yeah, I don't mean anxiously.
I take away the anxious. But you know, the thing is that the brain wants to learn. And when the brain's in learning mode, that's when the endorphins come out. The brain actually wants to learn. So when you create something new and a new exciting situation that's not threatening, but that's new in a way that's that's inviting and welcoming, that actually creates the stimulus to learn. And because it creates the dopamine in the brain. Brain's excited to learn something new. It's like, oh, this is exciting and fun. And James Garrett was saying that only a thimbleful, that's as much as you can learn at one moment. Just like that. That's it. Isn't that cool? Anyway, go check him out. But okay, so I know, final thoughts, because I'm getting ready to go see my son graduate high school.
All right.
So
all right.
18 years. The gauntlet.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's so
you.
You must be so excited, right?
I am. I'm like the first one's out the chute. Woo!
Yeah, right? Good for you. Well, how fun.
Free to go.
So final thoughts, I'll start. So to all the parents and teachers out there, I'd say really look at the kids' intuition, encourage that. Encourage the kids in your life to remember who they are, because that's so important, because they're wonderful, and that they always have a choice. They can always choose how they're going to think and feel, no matter what's going on around them. And that's where their power lies. So empower them.
That's great.
Yeah, and I think, just if kids can understand that we're all more alike than we are different, that even in our DNA, even all around the world, that we all have hopes and dreams and fears and insecurities, and if we can open our heart to each other a little bit more and breathe before we respond, take responsibility for how we act and react, our whole world will change.
Yeah, I think we all could use that message to just realize that everyone's going through some challenging times right now. You don't know what someone's going through at home. You don't know what relationships breaking apart. You don't know their inner experience. And, they might snap at you, and that might be the best they could do today.
Right.
They might be holding back a volcano of anger, and they just kind of snipped at you.
Right.
So you don't know what people are going through.
Right, you don't. You really
Have some empathy. that it's, you know, if they're acting that way, there's a reason they're probably hurting.
Yeah. And you know, if folks would like to take a look at our first book in the
Yeah.
4-part series, we're offering that to your folks who are listening
Oh,
in.
great.
There's
And
a
that's at matrixproductions.co /book.
That's it.
Yeah.
we'd
The
love
Iron
to have people
Man
check
book.
it out.
And that is in the post as well. So you guys can also click on the post and you can click there and go claim that free gift. Thank you so much for that gift, and thank you for all that you do. And I hope this message gets out far and wide. So, you know, just asking any of the listeners and people who are tuning into this to please share it out with anybody that you know that is a mom or that is, you know, a teacher and, you know, might want to incorporate these messages into their classrooms and into their homes.
Thank you, Carrie. We really enjoyed it.
Welcome. Well, it's so great to talk with you guys.
Your series has been awesome, and we just really appreciate the work you're doing too. It's you're changing the world. You know, it's all echoes out.
It does, and you know, with love. Like I might sock a truth punch at you, but it's all in love. You know, it's like sometimes we need the disruptors. I get to be the disruptor. Don't kill the messenger. You know.
Right. Messengers are good. Yeah.
Don't kill the messenger.
Thank you again so much for sharing your time.
Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye.
Bye.